All right, Rockstars, we are going to get rocking and rolling here in T-minus 3 minutes and counting. I'm going to try and put a countdown timer in this, so stick with me. As you guys know, I think you know by now, I'm always trying new things, which I think is important for a business to grow. So here we got this countdown timer. I'm going to change it. Give me 1 second here to 3 minutes. Bingo. Okay, I'm going to grab myself a coffee, and I'm going to see you guys back here in 3 minutes. So catch yous on the flip. Just really quickly, what we're going to be covering off today is 3 major things. One is going to be, let me just pull up my little list of the things that you guys requested. One's going to be how to factor in margin versus markup. I'm going to show you guys how to do that, how to get the tool for that. I'm going to show you guys, and get you guys to sort of look over my shoulder as I dissect a job gone wrong, a real job example gone wrong, some of the things that you guys can do to proactively prevent that. And I'm going to show you guys, when you're looking at figuring out your break-even margin, what are some things that you should include and some things you shouldn't include from an expense perspective. Anyways, I will see you guys in the flip in less than, well, I guess in 2 minutes, right? Ciao.
Until right now, this very moment, contractors have always been on their own, not as tradespeople, but being alone and knowing how to take their business to the next level. They call us working class, they call us blue collar. They say that we don't have the smarts to become the business owner that we're meant to be. That is such bullshit. You have the ability. You're more than any of that. The question really is, where do you get the insights that you need specific to contracting to systemize your business so you can get your profits to pay for your freedom? I'm Andrew Houston. I'm going to show you how to make more profits, how to get more control, how to get more freedom in the simplest, quickest way possible without any of that bullshit. Welcome to the No Bullshit Podcast for Contractors. Listen up, level up, and if you learn something, like the video, subscribe to the channel, change your business, change your life.
I got my mug. I got my thing 2. I love this mug. My favorite mug. Yes, we're going to be getting into it in a second, but I got to. It's nice to have little things. I don't know, it's like OCD, or I don't know if there's some sort of I don't know what you call it. Anyway, some sort of label. But I love having funky mugs, and this one here has got thing 2 on the outside, but then when you finish it, it's got thing 1 down below. So. Anyways, I love that. I'm always looking at this going, you can always be better, right? You might be number 2, but like you're always striving to be better and to be the best that you can. Hence thing 1. I don't know if that's ever achievable, but anyways, that's sort of my mindset. So you guys ready to rock and roll? We're going to get cranking today. Going to help you guys big time. I'm going to show you guys a tool that's killer, no filler. You might have seen it before, but I'm going to walk you through it to understand the freaking impact of not understanding margin versus markup. Yes, we're going to be doing some math, and then we're going to get into the importance of job costing. And I'm going to walk you through an actual client example, and then we're going to touch on some of the things you need to know as far as what defines categorizing your expenses and things of that nature. So. Let's get into this. I'm going to get this countdown timer thing happening here, so bear with me just for a second. See if I can get that up. Okay, good. All right, so what I'm doing, the reason I'm pulling this up is I want to manage my time to manage your time so we can get the most out of our time together. So I've got 7 minutes. Hit the clock, baby. I had 7 minutes to rock and roll each of the topics today, because we've got 3 topics, and I got my right-hand person, Andrea, with me. I'm just going to open up the Facebook group so I can actually see some of your comments. So as the clock is ticking and I'm burning that, that's okay. I'll make sure that we stay within those boundaries of the 7 minutes. So stick with me just for a second. And as I'm pulling this up, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so all right, guys. So let's get cranking this. So one of the things that is one of the most critical things that you've got to get control of. And there's not just one thing that you have to look at. This is one of the main things, but is when it comes time for pricing jobs. Okay? How many of you guys price jobs? Type in, do you price jobs? Of course you do. That's a stupid question, isn't it? I mean, that's what we do. We price jobs all the time. Okay? Without us pricing jobs, we're not going to get any jobs. Without any jobs, we're not going to have a fucking, we're not going to have a business to go to, right? Okay, so who gave you that amazing idea? Yeah, exactly. You did, probably. The clock? You did it, Adria. I love it. That's what teams are all about, right? You're stronger with them than without them. Okay, so margin versus markup. I am going to go through a little bit of math. I'm going to switch my screen here, so stick with me. And let me just see if I can pull this baby up. Bear with me for a second. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about here is this guy right here. So let me bring it into the mix. I'm going to share with you guys a tool that is absolutely awesome. So I will bring it up. Give me 1 second. Looks like a guy with pants half on, half off. Okay. So guys, when we are looking at margin versus markup, let me just tell you, it's a mathematical way that you need to understand as best as you can. I don't expect you to get it all today, but first of all, we got to work with what's called our break-even, okay, margin. And our break-even margin is basically what it takes as far as the amount of, if you look at this formula, break-even margin is your annual overhead expenses. So I'm actually going to feather into the other one. I'm going to come back to this and explain to you guys what actual overhead expenses are, but I will touch on it a couple times. The overhead expenses is basically things to keep the lights on, right? Anything that some people might call it fixed expenses, that no matter what, you have to pay these expenses, okay? The heat, the hydro, the leases, the rent, you get the idea. I'll get more into that later on, but you got to take your overhead expenses divided by your estimated annual sales. Why are we doing that? Okay, well, mathematically, you've got this expense sitting over here. And I want to know, based upon how much sales you have, right, what is our break-even margin? In other words, what is the percentage we've got to put on a job to just cover the lights, just to cover these overhead expenses? Well, to do that, you want to find out what the percentage is of annual overhead expenses versus your estimated annual sales, okay? So we're going to use an actual example. So say we got this contractor, $250,000 in annual overhead expenses. He does $1 million in sales. His break-even margin is 25%. That means he's got to put 25% margin, not markup. 25%. I said margin, not markup. He needs to put 25%. What? What did I say? Margin in order for him to break even, or in order for him to be able to cover his overhead expenses. Here's the part that sucks about that, which we're going to get into how to address it. That would mean if that job went as planned based upon those overhead expenses, he wouldn't make anything, but he wouldn't lose anything either. Okay, that's going to cover the overhead expenses of $250,000. With the sales of $1 million, okay? Hopefully everybody's following me with this. You can go back to this video later on, okay? Again, I'm running out of time with my 2 minutes and 28 seconds. Once you've determined that, okay, we've got to make sure that, if we wanted to go, actually, I'm going to skip past this part. So let's say we got our 25% break-even margin, okay? And let's say that we wanted to make, 10% more margin, right? Well, what would we have to do? Well, instead of 25%, right? If we want to make 10% more, we'd add 10% to the 25, 35%, right? That would in turn give us the ability to make, if we're looking at this over the span of a year, if we put 35% on everything, on $1 million worth of sales, we'd end up with an extra $100,000 in profits, okay? And why am I jumping ahead? Because I really want to get to margin versus market, okay? One of the things to determine your margin conversion rate, and conversion rate, this is my own little terminology to make sure that you're using a simple system, a multiplier system, okay? A lot of people make a fatal mistake, okay? 90% of contractors make, okay? So I'm just going to read this through. Let's keep using the 35%. let's say break even profit. Okay, in other words, making our minimum profit in this case of an extra 10%. In order to use this when estimating, you need to calculate something I call your margin conversion rate. So your margin conversion rate, guys, this is just a mathematical formula. I'm not trying to be a mathematician. You've got to take whatever the margin is that you want to make and you minus it from 1, okay? So if that was the case, right, 35, we want to make 35%. We take 1 minus 0.35, which equals 0.65. And how do we use that? All we do is we take, basically, if we're looking at our sales price, we take our cost. Let's say the cost of doing the work in this case was $1,000. That's just the example, $1,000. Our margin conversion rate, based on what we figured out, was 0.65. Take $1,000 divided by 0.65, and what do we get? We get a big $1,350. Now, so $1,350 is what we need to sell that job for in order to make, in order for us to make the 10% that we wanted. Now, here's the fatal error. Let's say, for example, that we go back to that example that our break-even margin was 25%, right? We're using the same example throughout this whole demonstration, okay? Now, let's just say that all you did was, instead of, if you did use your margin conversion rate formula and if you just multiplied $1,000, okay, guys, times 1.35, so a bit of an error on my part, you get $1,350, okay? Here's the reality. Sorry, I made a bit of a boo-boo. What you should be charging is $1,538, okay? Now, how did I come up with that again? $1,000 divided by our margin conversion rate, 0.65, gives us $1,538. That is a true 35% margin, not markup, okay? Now, if we had just used the standard, what most people do, contractors out there, I want to make 35% margin, and they take $1,000 and they multiply by 1.35, that equates to $1,350. Here's the craziest part. You ready for this? You're like, what's the big deal, Andrew? What's the big deal? So what, $1,350 versus $1,538? I'll tell you what the big fucking deal is. The big fucking deal is this. If you take your sales, right, minus your expenses, okay? So if we take $1,350, that's what we were selling it for, minus the expenses of $1,000, right? That's what we said the expenses were, $1,000. Divided by our sales to figure out what our gross margin is, you would have only made a gross margin of 26%. Now, guess what the scariest part is? Our break-even margin, just to keep the freaking lights on, was 25%. So you thought you were making 35% margin? No, you weren't. You were only actually making 26% margin. Okay? Now, you've got this document. You can use it. Now, here's the icing on the cake. I've gone over on my clock. That's okay. I'll make it up. Here's the fucking best part of this. I've created a calculator for you. So you don't have to worry about this. You don't have to worry. Yes, it's good to understand and understand the math, but let's face it. There's certain math, guys. I'm just going to tell you. There's certain math where we have to just take what it is that's being given to us, okay? Einstein equals E equals MC squared. Sure, we can go off to school. We can go grab a bunch of fucking books and how we came up with it, or we can just use the formula that we know that works, okay? So here's the goal behind this. Let's say that you wanted to make, on a job, 37% margin. Right here, 37% margin. You go desired margin, 37%, okay? What's my multiplier, Andrew? Like, how would I figure that? How would I calculate this? All you have to do is go, I want to make 37%. All you do is you take, let's say you want to make 37% margin on the $1,000, okay? Then what do? We take the $1,000, we multiply by 1.587. That's already calculated for you. And bingo, bango, you're going to get 37% margin. You want to make 45% margin, you take $1,000, if that was the example, multiply by 1.818, and what do you get? You get 45% margin. Guys, this is gold, okay? Now, let's hit the timer again. 4:43, got to keep this nice and tight. Pull it here. Oh, wrong one. There we go. Okay, I should stop sharing my screen. There we go. Okay, cool. All right, so now I'm going to hit the timer again. I got probably less than 7 minutes for this one. Right, Andrea? Yes, Andrew. Stay tight to the time, my friend. Okay. Hey, Patty, how's it going? It's good. Great to have you on the call today. All right, so here we go. Okay, the next thing was to walk through. I'm going to try to get this done in like 4 minutes so we can buy some time. I've put together, let me see here. I will show my screen and I will bring this over to you. You watch this, guys. This is going to be mind-blowing for you, okay? So here we go, okay? Mind-blowing. This is an actual client, okay, guys? So when we look at this, I'm going to walk through. This is a template, okay, that we created for them. You want to look at different costs, okay? So if we're looking at this, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we job cost our projects, okay? We want to make sure that we know for certain that we're on track to making a profit. But here's where things fall apart, okay? Before we had our clients use this template, and there's lots of other tools and softwares and what have you that we get our clients or champion CEOs to use. Look what happened here. They had ran this job, okay? This job, here we go. This was a $496,000 contracted job, okay? $496,000. They didn't even know it, guys, because they waited till the end of the freaking job, and this is one of the biggest principles you've got to stop doing. Do not look at trying to figure out whether or not you're profitable or not at a job when the job is finished. That's like playing baseball, waiting until the fucking 12th inning, and then you finally look at the scoreboard and realize like you're being blown out of the water. Okay, I mean, you don't play any sport. You don't. Even if we were going to go outside and play a game of shinny, which is like hockey for us in Canada, out on the street, okay, or on the ice, just a friendly game of shinny. We're all going to want to keep score, right? We're going to want to know who's winning, who's losing. You've got to be tracking your labor. You've got to be tracking your material and other costs along the way. That's why I call it progressing to profit. So imagine these guys, okay? Imagine these guys. They estimated, okay, 3,717 hours. They actually put in 6,305. Now, I'm not going to put total onus on them as far as what caused it, because it was a bad client. There was tons of miscommunication. There was a whole bunch of subcontractors that the client had hired that were just a fucking nightmare. But here's the thing, right? Regardless of all those variables, regardless of what causes things to go astray, if they had been tracking this, and this was a $500,000 contract. This was over a 6-month contract for this company. 6 months. 6 months of not knowing whether or not they're winning or losing, okay? You've got to know you're winning, guys, or losing. Why? Because if you've got a job, I don't give a shit if you've got a job that your typical job is like $4,000 or $10,000 or $20,000. If you don't know if you're on or off track throughout the process, if it's a 2-week job and you don't know until the end of the job that it took you an extra 2 weeks, that's a massive problem. You've missed the opportunity. You've got to correct things as they go. So your frequency of knowing, minimum frequency of knowing whether or not your job is on track or off track from a job costing perspective of what has been estimated versus what is actually happening, you guys have got to keep it to a week or less. Every single week, minimum, every single week, you need to be tracking your jobs. Now, say you got a job that is only 2 weeks long. Well, then it's got to be proportionate, okay, guys? It's almost like move the decimal place one spot, okay? So let's say that you've got a job that's like 2 weeks, right? If you move that decimal place from 2 weeks and we go to 2 days, that means every 2 days we should be putting our hand on the pulse to know, hey, man, I put my hand on pulse here. I mean, put our hand on the pulse to know, am I on track or off track, okay? When you are able to know that you're starting to go off track, it's a way easier to get back on track when you just need to course correct versus like massive, massive changes, okay? That, by the way, you've already missed the window, right? Okay? That's the one thing about being a contractor and being in the trades that a lot of other businesses don't get. We have to track this shit real time because one little error over here, or better this, one little error over here causes a negative domino effect to the next part of the phase, causes the next, negative effect to the next phase, and we just get mass chaos. It turned out, guys, that one of the major things when they look back at this could have been course corrected within the second week. So there was a main. This was a client that was an electrical contractor, and the switchgear was misordered. The part numbers, the wrong part numbers, were given to them from the client, and then they went and installed the wrong switchgear. Like, can you imagine? Versus they found out, the second week in, or a week or so in, that, hey man, this is the wrong part number. You ordered the wrong stuff. This isn't our fault. And then guess what? Who would have been held liable? I mean, guys, this is huge, okay? Now, you've got to follow this regarding your labor. You got to follow it regarding your material costs. Whether you use a template like this, whether you use software, I don't care. You've got to track it, okay? So there we go. I beat the clock. Love it, okay? Next one. Let's reset this. So that. Okay, reset. Hit the play. Okay, so I told you guys earlier when I was sharing with you, let me pull it back up again. Okay, when I was talking about this, one of the things that you need to make sure of is that your bookkeeper or account isn't fucking you over, okay? And sometimes it's not, a lot of times I don't think it's intentional. They've got their own interpretation of what expenses are, but this is huge. This little formula here, your break-even margin, is one of the most important formulas, and if you don't like math, get out of business. I'll say it again. If you don't like math, you don't have to like math, actually. Let me reword that. If you're not willing to apply math, then you should shut your business. You should get out of business or sell your business or get out of it. Whether or not you like math or not is not the core, okay? But you have got to be willing to start applying math. Otherwise, you're not going to be a business owner. You're just going to be a technician trying to run a business, which will be basically like a job just over broke, okay? Math is one of the most important and most powerful things that you can do to help yourself, help your family, help your team, and one of the biggest things that you can do to dominate your marketplace. So let's look at this break-even calculator, okay? And we're talking about expenses. We're talking about annual overhead expenses. You can write this down. There's other terms of this. One is fixed expenses, okay? It means the same thing, okay? But our annual overhead expenses, too many bookkeepers, okay? They take things like material cost. I don't know how they see it this way. They take employee. They take your tradespeople and they put them. They put them into the wrong category. Okay. Too many times, what they will do is they will put them into annual overhead expenses. Okay. Now, what is the problem with that? Okay. The problem with putting the wrong information in here is the obvious. It gives you the wrong number, okay? If somebody, as an example, instead of $250,000, let's say, for example, I don't have my calculator with me right now, but let's just say, for an example, that, that we added an extra $50,000 to $100,000 in expenses here. That's going to change this number dramatically, right? Like, that's going to change it big time. So, well, actually, this is pretty simple, right? If we change that to $350,000 instead of $250,000, just for the sake of the wrong expenses being in the wrong place, all of a sudden our break-even margin, we'd be thinking that it's 35% versus 25%. Guys, that could be the difference of you landing work or or losing work. I mean, right? Like, knowing this is a baseline number, so you need to make sure that you're. Here we go. The fixed expenses. Okay, otherwise known as annual overhead expenses. Think of them as fixed. Think of them as if you got no work tomorrow, what would the bills be that you would have to pay that reoccur every single month or reoccur even on a quarterly basis? Typically, these are reoccurring expenses, okay? So, reoccurring expenses. Some people would think that a fixed expense is my guys, right? Because I got to pay my guys, the guys out in the field, right? That I pay. They work 40 hours a week. No, that is not fixed. If you didn't have any work tomorrow, you wouldn't be paying those guys because they'd be laid off. Okay? Now, if you take an example, okay, hopefully this is helping, okay? Think of fixed as in it's fixed. I have to pay the hydro. It's fixed, whether I sell anything or not. I have to pay my cell bill, okay? It's fixed, whether I use it or not, okay? My internet. You get the idea, right? Make sure when you're pulling this information, probably you're going to pull it from your profit and loss statement. Make sure that you make sure that it's categorized in the right spot, okay? And one of the biggest ones to keep an eye out for is that a lot of bookkeepers and accountants, they will put the labor, okay, your guy's labor, they will put it as fixed expenses. It is not fixed expenses, okay? I don't know how they think that's fixed, okay? It's not. And it's one of the big, they put material, okay, into fixed expenses. Guys, you don't have to pay for material if you don't have any work, right? Well, then that wouldn't be included in this, all right? So make sure that you get your numbers right. So let's summarize this. What were the three things we had to cover off today? Three things we had to cover off today were pretty simple, right? In the sense that that sheet that I went through, which is the pricing, the pricing calculator. Let me just get the proper name for it. The pricing for profits calculator. That is actually in the contractor. That's in the into the association, into this group. You can get that document. I think Andrea can maybe post it for the group. You want to get that. You want to read through it. You want to have that freaking cheat sheet, that one sheet that's got all the different multipliers. You want to have that right beside whoever does quoting. Okay, it's huge. All right. You want to have it in your back pocket if you're out on jobs and you're quoting. Like, have that thing either on your phone. Either put it into a spreadsheet. Have it with you all the time so you're using the right multiplier for the right margin. Okay. I'd hate for you to be thinking you're making profit and yet you're just at break even or below break even when you're doing your math. That's like big no-no. Okay. It doesn't matter how well your guys do the job. It doesn't matter how good your clients are. Okay. It just doesn't matter. If you don't price your jobs properly, you are screwed. All right. Okay. Next was make sure you're tracking your jobs, progressing to profit on a regular basis. Last one is make sure you're using the right data in the right formulas in the right way. Okay, so that's it. That's it for all, folks. Finishing, Andrea, 5 minutes. Sooner than I thought. Khalid, hey, my man, game on, love it. Khalid, brother. Okay, love it. Okay, so let's see what other comments I got here. For some reason I can't see all the comments. Oh my God, new record. Yeah, only if I get off in the next less than 4 minutes. So everybody listening in, whoever wants the tool, put in #me, !, or just type in me. We'll get that out to you guys. And yeah, man, hopefully that was beneficial. Please price your jobs profitably. Please track your jobs to make sure that they're on track and not off track so that you can get them back on track. Okay? Too many times and here's the thing. You have them, especially when it comes to tracking jobs and profitability, and I am looking at the clock. It's one of the greatest things that you have as to be a leader. Okay, one of the greatest things to be a leader starts off with utilizing the knowledge that you fucking have. I know you as a owner of a contracting business. Maybe it's not you. Maybe you got some foremen out there, some project managers that are very knowledgeable individuals, that if they saw something that was going off, right? If they saw something that was going off the tracks, they innately, we are natural troubleshooters, right? And when we know that something's going off track, we can fix it. We can solve it. We can at least bring it up to the team, and the team could include the client, could include the supplier, obviously include your guys, and all of a sudden we solve the problem, and guess what? We're back on track making money. But man, you get off track when you're running a job site, holy shit. I know it. You know it. That client that lost, how much money did they lose? Let me just take a look. Guys, ready for this? They lost $89,000, minus 17% margin, minus 17% after 6 months of fucking work. And to make up that $89,000, okay, I'm still going to finish on time, Andrea. To make up that $89,000 that they lost, think about this for a second. Think about this. If they only make bottom line net profit at 10%, ready? I'll say again. If they only made, which I know they made less than that when we first started with them, they're making a lot more now. That 10% net profit, that would mean if they lost $89,000, they would have to do $890,000 worth of work. 10% of $890,000 is $89,000 just to pay for the lost money. Just to pay. This took them, just to let you know, it took them almost a year to make up for that one job that went to the shits. that could have been fixed way, way back in the beginning. Way back in the beginning. Okay? So, there you go. All right, there's my little rant for the day. All right, we'll see you guys on the flip side. Glad to see that you're here, Patty. Yes, we are. And Khalib and team. Guys, keep your stick on the ice and make sure you control what you can, right? I love the old, and not that I'm in AA, I think that's great, but my grandmother taught me the same, right? God grant me the serenity to change the things I can, the courage to change the things that, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I'm shutting her down. See you guys on the flip side. Ciao.
Hey, Rockstar, I hope that you enjoyed that one. I mean, if you did like this podcast, leave a review, leave a comment. This will help us a lot to keep you bringing the gold, allowing you to delegate, dominate, and deliver so you can take your contracting business to the next level. Now, make sure you subscribe, get the latest teachings and insights, and we will see you back here for another No Bullshit podcast. No, seriously, no bullshit.